Dear Jerry, please find the following an assistance and not an hindrance, and certainly meant not to offend. In previous correspondences has been provided a great deal of knowledge, gnosis, to assist any seeker on the path to heaven. The stance you take, alas, is to be expected. However, not to be disheartened, let's bring to light further gnosis. There are a lot of associations of the health of our liver to the corresponding body of our vitality, or the vital body, which in turn owes its vitality to the body superior to it, and so on, to the causal and beyond. So whether it be mercury and heavy metals lodged in our systems, or liver stones affecting our health, is it not apparent these to be symptoms of the cause? It is known in Gnosticism that the liver is the organ that purifies the blood, and the heart is that wise organ that takes the impure blood of the liver and purifies it, thanks to the oxygen that enters through our lungs. There is an alchemical aspect here, urging us of the need to change our nature. So instead of being a liver, we need to become a heart. Why? Because all the strength that we call willpower in sexuality relates to Satan and acts in the liver. In order to be in the heart, we have to work with the superior forces, with the monad, the spirit. And that is precisely the Gnostic doctrine. It goes directly into the heart. Satan is to be found in the liver, in the seat of desires, which is the animal force, the sexual animal force, whether an animal or an intellectual animal. The animals act according to their instinctual laws, whereas the intellectual animal exercises the sexual act according to our own whim, according to our desires. In astrology, this Aryan race relates to Aries and its ruler, Mars, with its logos, the Archangel Samael. And Mars, in turn, relates to the liver, and this race, this humanity. The liver is the reflection of the forces of the kingdom of the Father in heaven, and heaven in this instance is the higher aspect of ourselves, the Father of our Father, the innermost. When someone is angry, it is because he is frustrated. That anger arises, and the solar forces, atomic energies used by that anger feeds the animality that we have within. In that moment, a moment of anger, we are not worshipping God, we are worshipping an idol called anger. How do you place an idol, another Elohim, another god of gods inside of yourself? You do it through the liver. When we covet the neighbor's wife, the neighbor's spouse, we are worshipping another idol. And when we kill, we are centered in Lilith, the black moon. Bloodshed is related to the gallbladder. For instance, when you embarrass your friend in front of another person, blood rushes to their face. That's called bloodshed because you are embarrassing that person. This is a low level of bloodshed. The worst level is when someone kills another person and sheds their blood. When they allowed the bile of the gallbladder to take over his self. To kill is an art in this day and age. There are movies where they present killing as an art. They worship that idol. So this is the relationship of the gallbladder with the liver. And this is why we have sicknesses of the liver, because we have the psyche and elements within that destroy the gallbladder and liver. Stones in the gallbladder, gallstones, are very common. And in this area we have the lower appetites, gluttony, fear, pride, anger, etc. When we eat from fruits, we get what are called vitamins. Vitamins are just solar energy in different scales or levels. When you enter and satisfy the sexual urge as an animal, then you are sending the solar energy that your body produced to the satisfaction of desire, which is centered in the liver. We stink like animals. The animals spill the sexual force, the solar energy that is located in the sexual organs. As a consequence, because of the orgasm or spasms for the satisfaction of desire through the animal body, we create within us what we call lust. Lust is precisely that idol that we created in the beginning, the original sin, and that everybody worships. Anyone who spills the sexual energy like an animal is an idol worshipper. They are worshipping the element that is called lust, that everybody has inside. When we covet the sensation of orgasm or spasm, the animal desire, that coveting is the power of Leviathan, another idol, or Leviathan. And through coveting, we are always acting in this physical world. We just want to satisfy desires which are located in the belly. That is the power of Behemoth. When that coveting is frustrated because we cannot satisfy it, then anger arises, which is frustrated desire. The spleen of the earth is the animal kingdom. However, within that animal kingdom, we also find another kingdom erroneously called humanity. We call it animality because indeed we are intellectual animals who still belong to the animal kingdom. That is, we are merely animals with intellect. It is very rare to find a human being. This humanity, a term we use out of respect, is related to the liver. The liver of the earth is this humanity that transforms certain particular forces. But if we observe the liver, underneath it is another organ that is called the gallbladder. The liver is the largest organ in the body, and the gallbladder is underneath and related to the liver itself. Both liver and gallbladder relate to the forces of the moon, lunar forces, that also are in the universe, because the planet Earth feeds itself, nourishes itself with the lunar forces. These lunar forces are related with the inner layers of the Earth as well. The Earth has two types of moons. They call them the white moon and the black moon, both of which are related to this humanity. Traditions amongst the Kabbalists state that this humanity has two wives, the white moon and the black moon. The white moon is that which relates to the spleen, that element that projects the solar light in our organism. The gallbladder is the black moon, within which we have the bile, which is that bitter element necessary for our organism. In this same way, we have to visualize the planet Earth. The liver, this humanity, is huge, but very polluted. The liver reflects the power of the Father in the head, that which is the primary force among the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Father reflects his kingdom in the liver. In ancient times, when the forces of the moon were necessary for this planet, they implanted the Lemurian humanity the Kunda buffer organ, which is the tail of Satan. And this organ crystallizes and channels the lunar forces. The Kunda buffer organ was eradicated from humanity, but the evil consequences from that organ still remain within the psyche of us all. Psychologically speaking, we have two moons, Nahama and Lilith, or the white moon and the black moon. that relate to these organs that we are naming here, the spleen, liver, and gallbladder. In order to become kings and queens of nature, it is only through the heart that we can control these four creatures: the fire, the lion; the water, the man; the air, the eagle; the earth, the bull; the sphinx. The sphinx symbolizes the mystery of the human being, the mystery of the man that we get if we defeat it. Many have heard about the sphinx, a strange animal which we need to conquer. Indeed, this elemental does exist in the superior dimensions, but the meaning of defeating the sphinx is to take control of the elements related with the four creatures of Ezekiel. Holy creatures. These are holy when we control them, but right now they are not holy. We are slaves to these four creatures, these four elements, and it is because all of the strength is centered in the liver, in Behemoth, and down there in the Leviathan, and they control us. And that is why we have to enter into the knowledge of the tree of alchemy, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because this is the way in which we can take advantage of these forces for good or for bad. We need to take advantage of these forces and go beyond good and evil. We need to be like God, knowing good and evil. In the Bible, Elohim is a Hebrew word that means gods and goddesses. Those gods and goddesses exist in the universe. They are those beings or entities that we call angels, archangels, potentates, powers, divas, solar masters. They exist, but they relate to the heart. They control nature where they live, and they live in the planets or stars. There they are the heart of those planets, and in the heart we find the soul, the psyche, the superior manas united with the spirit. They have different hierarchical degrees. They can control nature. They control the mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and also the intellectual animal kingdoms. They are called cosmo-creators. Our humanity has no control of themselves because their psyche is very degenerated. The psyche, the soul, that should be in the heart, is not in the heart, it is in the liver. And this is precisely what is happening on planet Earth. This humanity, the liver, is polluted. And as a consequence, it is polluting the other organs, the intellectual animals, by killing animals, destroying the forests, polluting the oceans. See how the intellectual animal, the liver of this planet, is digging and digging and taking the blood of the earth. The blood, of course, which is called petroleum, oil, has a lot of solar force. We are just digging and spilling it in the oceans. Oil and water do not combine. And when you take the blood of the earth out, you are bloodshedding the earth. Bloodshed is related with bile, related with the gallbladder. And in the gallbladder we find hatred, killing, which is Lilith in us, the dark moon. The devil is the animality which is Lilith and which ruins the whole creation. This is how our entire psyche, all of our bodies are ruined because of the devil. This type of incest is related with the spleen, and the ruination of this planet comes from us because it is the liver that is the causa causarum of all of these problems that we have. Karma, cause and effect, acts through the liver, and in the liver we have the cause and effects of our previous defects, vices, errors, sins. And that is why everybody is sick in the liver, And instead of healing the liver by annihilating those psychological elements of the liver and gallbladder, what do? Well, we fortify those psychological elements and the liver gets worse. So it's very easy to see how this humanity suffers in the lower abdomen with different types of sicknesses which are infecting the other organs, including even the brain. So all of these three aspects, idolatry, bloodshed and incest, are expressed through the liver, gallbladder and spleen. And they are related with the tree of alchemy, the tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge. And that is why we are suffering. We not only hurt ourselves physically in our psyche, but we are hurting other organs of the planets, the animals, plants and oceans. We are producing more karma than which that we already have. The superior forces of Mars are the male forces, the solar force that fecundate our matter. When we know alchemy, when we know the mystery of Dart. Every planet has two forces, positive and negative. The positive force of Mars is represented by Elohim Gevurah, or Elohim Gabriel. But the negative aspect is Andramelech, who is Hasnamus, someone who steals the forces of nature for the satisfaction of his own animality, which is what we find in this planet Earth's present humanity. Yes, this Aryan humanity belongs to Samael, but is unfortunately polarized with the negative aspect of Samael, Mars, who is represented in Andramelech, which acts through the liver in order to satisfy animality. In the liver we find fear, terror. That is why one of the moons of Mars is called Phobos, from the Greek, which means fear, terror. And from that word phobos comes the word phobia. There are many types of phobia related with the liver. Indeed, almost all of this entire humanity is panphobic, ultraphobic, since all of us polarize with the negative aspect of Phobos, Mars, by means of a range of antagonistic psychological attitudes against the commandments of God. However, this Gnostic doctrine is teaching us how to polarize ourselves with the positive aspect of Phobos, the positive aspect of Mars, which is Gevurah, Geburah-El, Gabriel, and that is chastity. We want Geburah-El, the forces of Mars, to fecundate our own matter, or in this case, our mater, the virgin, that eventually will appear if we raise up through the initiations. What is this positive aspect of Phobos? Well, the only positive phobia is the following. And this is from Proverbs 9:10. It says, "The beginning of wisdom is the fear of Jehovah and Dart. The knowledge of the holy ones is understanding." So all other phobias are animalistic. The only divine phobia is the beginning of wisdom is fear of Jehovah. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. Psalm 111:10. We have to learn the mystery of Dart to have the will in order to transmute, to perform alchemy from the sexual organs to Tiferet, which is nous, in the left ventricle of our heart. And that is why the mystery of the transmutation is related to the two serpents, or the caduceus of Mercury. The first serpent in the right is called Od. The second on the left is called Ob. In India, Ida and Pingala. The two polarities, the moon and the sun, the solar atoms and the lunar atoms. The solar atoms are related with Od, the serpent that rises on the right, Unfortunately, the serpent that gives us light with the solar energy, the prana that goes into our flesh and into our organs, into the flower, into the fruit, and we look at it and we get enticed. It is written that God made every tree pleasant to the sight. We have to learn how to transform impressions, to transform the solar light for the spirit in order not to commit adultery. When we look at a flower, a fruit, a woman, or a man, and like him or her, immediately we want to satisfy the lust, to commit adultery. We want to commit incest. We have to transform that. In order to do that, we need willpower. The power of Samael Mars. If we allow Andramelech, the negative ray of Samael, to control us, then we end up spilling our seed, fornicating, masturbating, and ejaculating the sexual force in order to satisfy the animal within. Then we forget about the tree of alchemy, the tree of good and evil. Of course, the serpent which is lunar, this left serpent, is more dangerous than the one on the right, because that serpent is related with Eve, the mechanicity of the moon. It is Nahama in the positive aspect, but in the negative it is called Lilith. Lilith, or Lilith, is precisely the one who fornicated with Adam and created the Kunda buffer organ. The evil consequences of that organ are inside of us, in our psyche. We have to stop being an animal by transmuting the sexual energy in order for those serpents to stand upright in the caduceus of Mercury. And that is what the pentagram is showing us. In order to develop the forces of God within, we need to take his force, which is the creative energy in the sexual organs, up to the heart. That is the sign that you see, because the wings of the spirit, those wings that the angel develops, are related with chastity. When you work in yourself and you walk on your own land and annihilate the ego and transmute your sexual force and work for God, you then accumulate a lot of strength, a lot of willpower, solar force. Then your enemies are afraid of you. But your enemies are not your neighbor. No. Remember that. People have very shallow minds, and they think that all the enemies of the Lord are enemies of this or that race or religion. No. The enemies of the Lord are within you. They are within us. Our defects, vices, errors, lust, pride, anger, etc. And all of those negative elements are afraid when we are accumulating light. And this is how we start following the path, working with Michael in order to defeat the dragon. So this liver is healed by comprehending the cause of the disease and thereafter annihilating all our rogue psychological elements, our egos, pride, arrogance, stubbornness, irritability, and anger, etc., which can only be fully achieved in transmutation and alchemy, a white tantra. Better to act upon the cause than the symptoms and accept wherein the faults lie. Without comprehension of the direct path in relation to the spiral path, then we become lodged, stagnant in our old belief patterns. From Piscean age belief patterns, we need to move to the dynamic Aquarian way of living life. Piscean patriarch traditions are half a lie. Those teachings without the creative feminine principle are sterile, lacking dynamic living life. In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. Elohim are gods and goddesses, plural, not the masculine principle alone, as depicted in archaic patriarchal systems. Let us rid ourselves of mystical pride and arrogance. We cannot forget our Divine Mother, represented here as the Kundalini, the Holy Spirit, and forgotten in Radhaswami and all the archaic Piscean patriarchal traditions of today. The creation of our tree of life, our solar bodies, Adam, the real man, our soul, is created by the joining of the feminine principle to the joining of the seed to the masculine principle. We have a beautiful mother. Open up your heart and sing her praises. Old stagnating belief patterns have to make way for the new dynamic knowing, gnosis, living here and now, in the moment, to have any hope of a resurrection. For the Gnostic, it is to become a knower, not a believer, someone who can see, a seer. The longer we are stuck in a belief system, the longer it takes to free ourselves from it. A tree that reaches towards its end days becomes old and rigid, inflexible, whereas the dynamic living sap of a young tree can move easily in any direction, vibrant, alive. We need to be born anew and be like a child, at any age, innocent, ego-free. We need to become the living soul. We must try to become that. A real master needs no followers. From the fruits of their actions, this is how we can tell them, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us.
Right, have you finished talking?